Hey, welcome to the channel. We hope that you enjoy today's stories and check out the chapters on the video to see all the stories for today. But before we get into this video, subscribe to the channel and hit that bell icon to get notified when we release a new video. So let's get into the video. What is the worst thing you have heard uttered by another human being?
Experience 1. I was intercourse abused by my grandfather from age 2 until I was put into a psych ward at 16. Later overheard my mother and her sister talking, convincing each other that I had made it up and it probably wasn't that bad. I am 51 now and it still haunts me. Not the worst thing I am sure, but for me, yeah. Experience 2. T.J. Lane, the mass shooter of Chardon High School in 2012. After being sentenced, Lane said to the victims' families and the courtroom,
"This hand that pulled the trigger that killed your sons now jerks off to the memory. Screw all of you,"
while giving the middle finger to attendees. Experience 3. A mom at church, lamenting her estranged daughter.
She came to me when she was 14 and said her stepdad had been forcing her to have intercourse for 5 years. I asked what she'd been doing to lead him on like that.
This mother honestly couldn't figure out why her daughter would want to couch surf with friends over 1,000 miles away, rather than stay in a double wide with a mom who blamed a 10-year-old for her own abuse. Experience 4. Do you know the real reason you were adopted? Insert name of classmate. Because your real parents didn't love you, screamed my second grade teacher at my classmate because he forgot his spelling book. If you're still alive, Miss Streeter, I hope your life sucks. Experience 5.
"I'm going to kill you someday."
This was said by my stepson to my puppy about an hour before he doused her in furniture polish and almost succeeded in killing her. He was 6. He hasn't changed. The dog and I now live elsewhere. Experience 6. When I was in high school, a teacher told me that I deserved to be homeless. This was after my parents kicked me out at 15. She went on a tirade about how I didn't go to church, I was clearly a terrible child, and how I deserved all the bruises and scars I had. Fortunately, our football coach heard that. He was normally a quiet and level-headed man. I will never forget the verbal assault he unleashed on that woman. He immediately pulled me from class and went to speak to the principal. That teacher was gone that day, and I went to go live with my aunt and uncle. Mr. Nadux, I will forever be grateful to you. In 1 hour, you proved to be more of a father than the stain in my life I once called father. Experience 7. Someone close to me was forced intercourse. As we took her to the hospital, a guy close to her said,
"Doubt it. I bet she just regrets it."
The girl needed reconstructive surgery. I never looked at the guy the same. Experience 8. From a super at an old apartment building in Hell's Kitchen. Somewhat paraphrased.
My mother and father were really nice to this kid. Took him in and fed them. He was family. Went to school with us and gave them clothes and dinner every night. Then we got to be about 15, 16, and 17, and he gets into an argument with my mom at the dinner table. And this has been ongoing for a while. But he's telling her he hates her, going to do whatever he wants, and he slapped her. She was his own mother, and he hit her. I couldn't believe what I saw. I said, "I'll handle this." He went outside on this stoop right here, standing here, and I came out and shot them right in the head. Back of the skull. Went to prison for kids for that, but got out when I was 18.
Experience 9. Every time my former best friend got drunk, he told me he was going to force intercourse a girl. I told myself he was joking the first handful of times and laughed it off. Then I started telling him that I will start leaving tips with the police every time there was an unsolved case. Our friendship finally ended with a fistfight over his drunken declarations. Experience 10.
You're going to die alone,
said my ex to me. She generally was a messy person. Didn't clean up after herself. When we moved to a new place, she promised she was going to help with housework. She didn't. Months into it, I asked her for help. She said she didn't make that much of a mess, so I told her I would let her clean up her dishes and I'd do my own. The first day I did it, she came home, saw her dishes weren't done, and told me I was going to die alone. Maybe I will, but the house will be clean. Edit, thank you for the W, kind stranger.
Do you like listening to these stories? Do you want to hear more of them? Then click that like button, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. And check the description for links to more videos and interesting stories.
Experience 11. From my mom when I told her that my dad was forcing intercourse on me and my sister, she said,
Is this really the sort of thing that goes on in your head? That absolutely did not happen, and if anyone ever found out about these strange thoughts you're having about your own dad and your own little sister, I dread to think what would happen to you. For your sake, I hope nobody ever finds out about you.
Experience 12. The first thing that comes to mind. A guy I used to know told me with pure hatred during a relatively casual conversation.
I should have taken a machete to that woman's uterus to prevent that mistake from ever being born.
The mistake being his own child and that woman being his baby mama. I haven't spoken to him since. Experience 13. Probably not the worst thing she said, but it was memorable and from my mom. I was really young, so don't remember the exact sentence, but it was basically,
If you ever get married, your future wife is going to have her life ruined by how much of a piece of shit you are and will call me, my mom, crying for comfort.
I wholeheartedly believe I will ruin anyone I date even decades later and never have dated anyone. She said variations of this a lot during elementary school and I took it to heart. Experience 14. I was in middle school and all the classes were in the auditorium, a Shoah survivor telling his experience. Towards the end, he was saying how once returned to Italy, he was aided by a farmer who got him a plate of pasta, in his own words, broken by tears, the best thing he'd ever eaten. At that point, one of my classmates chuckles and mutters something on the like of,
I wish you had died in the camps, you idiot.
throwing in a few anti-Semitic comments for good measure. Of course, the little twat didn't have the guts to say it out loud. Almost 20 years later, I feel paralyzed and horrified at the thought of those words, and ashamed for not having kicked my schoolmate in the face. Experience 15. Once while I was playing TF2, some guys on the mic were just raging and insulting another player simply because she was killing them on a pub map. They kept on, and people who used the vote report couldn't do much as others voted them to stay just to laugh at them more. It was then that one of those suddenly shouted,
You're that artist chick. I saw your profile link to DeviantArt on your Facebook. Your freaking sister died, huh? How was it? Did she suffer? That C-word is gone. She isn't coming back, and I hope she freaking died by forced intercourse. Screw you and your freaking dead rotten ass C-word of a sister. She freaking deserved it, and now she's freaking gone, and I hope you two freaking die.
Everyone went mute and stopped playing, and we could hear sobs from the girl until she disconnected from the match. Imagine going out to investigate someone for linked profiles to social media, to find anything bad that happened to them and then use it to simply crap on somebody nonstop out of spite. What a freaking scumbag. I know online gaming is full of that crap, but damn, that was just messed up. Experience 16. So, I have one. My father died when I was 12 and was gone from middle school for about 2 weeks. The first day I get back, a kid in my grade, who's super small but always talks too much smack, comes up to me and says,
How's your dad? Oh, forgot that bastard is dead, isn't he?
Then he proceeds to run from me. I grab him by the handle of his backpack and slammed his head into the locker, then proceeded to punch him in the face till my best friend manages to rip me off him. The kid goes to the hospital for his face sliced up in 2 different places, 5 teeth knocked out, a broken nose, and a dislocated jaw. I got 1 day of in-school suspension. The parents of the kid weren't happy with me but actually understood what was going on with me, and no one pressed charges. David, screw you. I will never forget what you told me. Experience 17. When I was a contractor in Iraq in 2005 living in an Iraqi military base, I heard an Iraqi tell another Iraqi in English that he was going to force intercourse on the female contractor that was sent over with us as soon as he got the chance, and the other Iraqi said he would help. We sent her the same day to a new location in an American facility. Experience 18. My neighbor was making a bunch of noise late at night, slamming something onto the floor reportedly, exclusively to piss off her downstairs neighbors who just moved in a week prior. When they came up to check on her, nicely, they were literally just asking if everything was okay, and she was just saying crap like, "Oh, now sounds are a problem," I guess because they made some amount of noise while moving in. They chatted for a few minutes, she was being awful, but the worst thing she said, as they were walking away, realizing she was freaking nuts, was, "And how's your immigration status? We don't live in the States. Illegal immigrants are not particularly common, nor are they a nuisance." Luckily, the guys had the decency and self-control to not rise to her challenge. They called the cops and the cops put that brat in her place. Nothing dramatic, just told her that she can't cause noises for no reason, shouldn't insult her neighbors, and that the cops were there for her, and this visit has been documented. Experience 19. I worked with a woman in her mid-30s that was dating a man in his late 20s. He had told her he wanted kids someday, but not now. He was a freelance pilot who did private gigs, not with a major carrier, and was accustomed to traveling the world. I think for everyone who knew them, it was plainly obvious he was not only cheating but gaslighting her into being subservient to him. He'd be in town every 4 to 6 weeks for a couple of days, and she'd take time off to make sure they could go out together, etc. This relationship carried on for a few years. She went to a fertility clinic to see if she could get her eggs frozen, and the doctor was like, the bad news, your eggs suck, and it's likely that if you were to try and freeze them, they wouldn't be viable. You have a short window to have children naturally, but based on the numbers, you'll be barren within a year or two." She told this to her boyfriend, who dumped her on the spot. He said he didn't want to get married or have kids until his career had cemented, and he wasn't settling for some middle-aged waitress. I think she was 39. If she wasn't able to have kids in 5 years, what's the point? Clearly, this was devastating, but what grossed me out was that she continued to date him. They broke up, but he'd take her for dinner every few weeks when he was back in town. But after all that, the worst thing I'd ever heard someone say to another was that we had this one other lady working for us who was an airhead. One day we were all working together, and Barren Lady made some joke about how Airhead made a silly mistake, and Airhead just giggled and said, "At least I've got eggs," and carried on working as if she hadn't said anything hurtful at all.
We hope you enjoyed listening to today's stories. If you want to see more stories, check out these videos or check the links in the description for more videos. And don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And ring that notification bell.